I mentioned in my last video, I said, if this pullback continues a little lower, I said in my last video, get ready because very soon that will put this RSI down towards oversold territories. And if we hit oversold, that will be the signal to watch out for to determine a bounce. There's a very likely scenario coming next. And that's exactly what has now played out as predicted. Once again, we now continued a little lower. And the moment that happened, we hit oversold and confirmed an oversold signal with the 2-hour Bitcoin RSI. And as usual, an oversold signal does not necessarily guarantee the bottom forever, but it does usually mean at least some sort of bounce or some sort of relief from all of the bearish price action is quite likely, at least in the shorter term, following that oversold signal, which is obviously now playing out as we can see. And so ultimately, when it comes to the short-term bearish and bullish movements, right now we're simply just undoing the previous short-term bearish move, which was just undoing the previous short-term bullish move, so on and so forth, which is basically a sideways price range, chopping around relatively sideways on the price chart, as we can see here. But some potential bad news to watch out for is that now that we have obviously hit oversold and we're bouncing in the short term, this actually happened just before we were able to wipe out this liquidity that was sitting below the price at around 62.4k, which is also what I mentioned in my last video. I said it's likely the price will be drawn towards this liquidity, but I said between back then and that liquidity would first likely hit oversold, which would mean some sort of bounce, which once again is now playing out as predicted. But that still means that we have this liquidity towards the downside at roughly 62.4k. So keep that in mind. That is ultimately still a level that could be hit at some stage, not necessarily right now because we're still in this bounce, still playing out this oversold signal. But perhaps on that next move down, if for example we remain in this sideways price range, which consists of both short-term bullish moves and short-term bearish moves, maybe on the move back down to the lower end of the range, we could ultimately wipe out that liquidity at some stage, maybe in a few days. As always, no guarantees, but that's still a level to watch out for on the price chart. Once again, around 62.4k.